Right, here we are, episode 2 of Garbage to Gravel-ish. Although it's more of an adventure bike I'm going to be creating, because I'm going to be using that old Saracen mountain bike frame that was in the bottom of my shed and putting some new and some not quite so new components onto it and turn it into a bike suitable for all-day riding. Let's have a look then at exactly what components I chose, thanks to a little bit of help from you guys too. So these bargain wheels, I've already put some tyres and tubes in them, and luckily I've got some Continental tyres laying around. I've got a few different tread styles too, because the folks over at GMBN, they don't tend to use 26-inch tyres that much, so, well, all the more lucky for me, I guess you could say. So I will be able to change them as and when the terrain requires that. But the rims on these wheels are a pair of Mach 1 ER10. Now, Mach 1 is a French brand. I'm pretty sure it's evolved from another brand, but I can't exactly remember who they turned into Mach 1 from, so I'm pretty sure it was another brand before and they had a rebrand. Anyway, someone will let me know down in the comments section below. These rims are laced up into a pair of Shimano Dior LX hubs. They are a fair few years old, but importantly, they're brand new. They've never seen any road action, or off-road action for that matter. The rear wheel has got 36 spokes and holes, and the front got 32. Quite a common practice back in the day there to have a few less on the front where you don't necessarily require such strength. Now, the drive side spokes have got Sapim spokes, and the non-drive side, they are in fact unbranded, as are the front wheels. But it's good to have a brand like Sapim on there because their spokes have been going for many, many years now. The rear wheel has an overlock nut distance of 135 millimeters, and luckily for me, it fits inside of that frame. I don't have to go about cold setting any dropouts there to try and get it to fit inside of it. And importantly, I can fit a cassette onto this free hub, which is going to be used on the bike. I'm not going to give away just yet exactly how many speeds I'm going to turn the bike into, but it was a deciding factor of why I went for these wheels. Right then, stopping those wheels is going to be, actually, I'm going to mix and match a pair of cantilever brakes on this. Again, like I said, people were saying, why don't you put disc brakes on it? Put some V-brakes on it and everything like that. V-brakes are incredibly powerful, sometimes in fact too powerful for a frame. I wouldn't be the first person out there if I was to put a pair of very strong V-brakes onto a bike, pull those levers, and then they're going to snap a boss of a frame. That's not going to happen in my case. I'm going to stick with that standard cantilever on the front, and for the rear, well, actually, I'm going to hand this one over to Doddy from GMBN because he was so excited when he saw what I brought in from my stash of bits at home.
Cheers, John. Yeah, kind of strange finding myself in the GCN set, but quite nice all the same. So this is your Saracen, right? So it's an old 26-inch wheel bike, a bit of a relic by all accounts, kind of like you, I guess, John. But interestingly, it's got old school cantilever brakes on. So, as far as I know, you're turning this into some sort of adventure bike packing rig. So you're not going to put discs on it, which would be my first choice. My second choice would have been V-brakes, but as you pointed out, probably a little bit flexing, it may well break, plus the compatibility with drop bars, and not really ideal. So, you're down to canties. In my eyes, there's only real one choice, a set of the old school self-energising cantilever brakes. Something like a pair of these, I reckon, might be up your street. So the thing that's quite cool about self-energising cantilever brakes is they revolve around a helix design, which essentially means you get a mechanical advantage. The more you brake, the more assistance it gives you. Now, on early mountain bikes, it was a little bit too powerful to run on the front end, but on the back end of the bike, you're going to get additional braking power, which can't be a bad thing when you're running with a sort of a heavily laden bike like John will be. So it's essentially a helix design on here. So as the brake pad contacts the rim, you're actually using that force to pull the canty in even more so. It's a really quite a cool system, although apparently they were quite grabby if you ran them on the front end. But I reckon even though Cannings doesn't necessarily want them on the front end of his bike, they may well be good up front too, because he's going to be running panniers and all sorts of other stuff on there. Check them out.
Of course, we are going to need some standard cables for those cantilever brakes, so I never thought I would ever have to use these straddle wires again. They've been in the bottom of a bag at my house for many, many years. I had to get some dust and cobwebs off of them, but they're in pretty good nick still. So they'll be providing the stopping power along with, of course, a standard Bowden cable. No hydraulics on this bike. I'm not going to treat the rider to that sort of luxury. And here we are, a cable hanger as well too, that cable is going to go in down from the brake lever, and then of course that'll be providing a bit of leverage to be able to pull on those cantilevers. So I did actually rob another part off of another old frame in the shed, and it's this cable hanger. So this is going to sit in between the locking nut and adjusting nut of the headset in order to actually give that front brake cable a little bit of tension. Now, the reason that one behind me didn't have one of these is because loads of mountain bikes back in the day had a really cool bit of tech, I thought, anyway, and it was an internal bit of routing. So on this stem here, you can see this was where the front brake cable entered, and then the outer cable would butt up against it internally before it would then drop out of this little bit here, then meet the actual cable hanger here and let the brake do its business. Of course, we do need to have some tension there, otherwise the brakes just simply won't work, hence why I've gone for this. I just hope there's enough thread on that fork for it to be able to fit, otherwise I'm going to have to file it down quite a bit. Right, what about the handlebars then? Yep, I'm going drop handlebars. Of course, we have to, don't we? This is GCN Tech after all, and GCN Tech is all about drop handlebar bikes. Well, not always, sometimes we do stuff with flat bars too. But yeah, I've managed to find just this old pair of zip bars, pair of service course ones in a 42 width. They were lurking around in the workshop and they're going to be absolutely fine. May have a little look around too, see if we've got any ones with slightly flared drops or anything like that, because I understand that's the fashionable thing these days, but I'm not that fashionable. And then I've also got this very light, this is an old an old Caloi Uno stem. Very lightweight bit of kit. I used to have this on one of my old bikes, got titanium bolts in there too. It is a very flat looking stem, but the good thing about this is, if you look at it, it's an A-head set stem, whereas that one there, that's an old quill stem. So what have I got here? I've got a quill to A-head adapter. Just check that out. So that can easily go down inside of the actual fork steerer tube, and then this can clamp on top of it. And the good thing here is I can just raise and lower the handlebars as required. Of course, it's easy then too to actually change a stem, because if we were using an old quill style stem with a closed front face to it, you have to unwrap the bars, remove the brake levers each and every time you want to change your stem length. And because I'm not going to know how this thing handles, in theory, this is ideal. It means I can swap stem lengths really, really easily. These things are a lifesaver. Providing the gear changes as well as the braking is going to be the Shimano Tiagra 10-speed levers. Now, they aren't compatible with every single rear derailleur out there. It is quite a specialist bit of kit, believe it or not, according to the Shimano service instructions. But I've gone for these because they're pretty robust, and well, they're going to work exactly for what I've got in mind, because I'm going to be pairing them up with this Shimano GRX 10-speed rear derailleur. So you remember, this is the kind of gravel type group set that they released this year, and I'm going to be fitting it because it's got this, let's try and find it then, a clutch mechanism. So I've locked it in there. You can see that lower arm will not move. When I release it, it will. That means the chain is going to keep a good amount of tension over rough ground, and also it's got that cool shadow style mounting on there too, so you can get it in just a little bit more on the rear derailleur hanger too. I'm looking forward actually to setting this up, because I've never set up the GRX system. Then we've got ourselves an 11 to 34 cassette here. So this is kind of a 105 grade, if you like. And that luckily fits on the free hub body of these wheels. I am going to have to get a very small thin washer which fits in just behind the actual sprocket cluster and the end of the free hub body, because it just takes up a little bit of slack, and then that's going to be good to go. So I guess by now it sounds like I'm a bit of a hoarder. I mean, yeah, the rear derailleur and also that cassette I did actually go out and buy. But the other bits and pieces are just things which I've managed to accumulate over the years somehow. I've got a bit of a habit of going along to cycle jumbles, which are a thing. They're kind of like a big sale where people take along all their old rubbish, and I go along and buy it, I guess, and take it home. Either way, all that story out of the way, my girlfriend absolutely hates it when I go to these things. Years ago, I managed to get this chain set. So it's a really basic looking bit of kit, square taper. I thought to myself, one day you'll use this for something. And one day I have. So I'm going to fit it onto that original square taper bottom bracket on that bike. I think that the actual cranks are going to sit out a little bit too wide, but it should be okay because I'm only going to fit one chainring on this bike, because you will remember just now I didn't show you a front derailleur, did I? That's right, I'm going one by. The person who is not deadly set up against it, but I'm not a huge fan of it really. I'm going to do it just for the simplicity and also the cost too. And I don't think I had a suitable front derailleur laying around either. So here we are, a really basic square taper crankset, never been used, don't know what the person who I bought it from ever intended for it. But the cool thing about it, it looks like one of those really fancy Campag ones because you've got a hidden away mounting here on the rear side of the drive side crank. I like that. Fitted into that, I'm going to use this race face single ring. So it's a narrow wide chain ring. It's 38 teeth on there, so I'm going to be running it with an 11 to 34 cassette. So I'm going to have 38 paired up with that. And I think that's going to look all right. So it means I can also play around with it and put it on either side until I get that chain line a little bit better, because who knows what it would be like. That frame's an old bit of kit after all. And not forgetting the fact that I'm going to need some special chainring bolts too, because remember, if you're using just one chainring, there's not quite as much material. So these ones here, picked these up many moons ago as well, when I thought anodizing bits was quite cool, and luckily about 15 years later it's come back in and it's in fashion, so even matches the t-shirt there. So they're going to work absolutely fine holding that in place. And of course, there is 5, by the way, in case you thought I lost one. And then also a chain there, and I've also got some cables kicking around somewhere too, or at least I hope I have. The only thing I think I've forgotten about so far is the handlebar tape. I'm definitely going to need some of that, so let me know if you've got any ideas what I should go for. I don't want anything too fancy because I've got a feeling that it's going to get pretty muddy pretty quickly. I'll tell you what actually, if anyone has got some handlebar tape that they would like to be in with a chance of going on this bike on that build, let me know. Our address is easy enough to find, so it's easy enough to send in, mark it for my attention. If not, leave a comment down below and I'll try my best to reply so we can get some in. And who knows, maybe I'll have enough that I can just do a lucky dip and pick out a random one and that'll get fitted onto the bike. Whether it matches or not, who knows. Now also, next week I'm going to be building this bike up. So do you want to see a full-length 50-minute epic of me doing it, just like I did with that fixie conversion? The editor, I think he absolutely loved that. He listened to me talking for 50 minutes in a row. Get involved if you'd like to see that. And also remember to like and share this video with your friends too. Give it a big old thumbs up. Now for 2 more great videos, the retro fixie build, click just down here. And the original cheap bike to super bike, click just down here. And for part 1, well, how could you ever have missed that? There's a link to that in the description too.